Welcome everyone, welcome to a new market update, and today we're going to discuss Bitcoin as usual, but we're also going to discuss whether Bitcoin is bottomed out and whether the altcoins are going to continue moving down, as right now we can see that Bitcoin pairs are losing their momentum because people are swapping their altcoins towards Bitcoin. But what's next to happen? That is the topic that we're going to address today, including my scenario on Bitcoin, as we most likely have been bottoming out on Bitcoin in itself, as 30k was holding as support. So let's get to the charts, but before that, do not forget to subscribe beneath and also like this YouTube video if you like the content, and comment if you want to see some special content. So let's get to the charts, and Bitcoin is, well, doing really fine at this stage. If we look at the daily structure, we can see that we've got this bullish divergence. But we can also see that we're still making lower highs, lower lows. So what is currently what you want to see to generate strength or generate future bullish momentum? That is making a higher low. So if we look at the 4-hour structure, we can see that we've got a few very important levels. And I've tweeted that yesterday as well, and I'll just zoom in even more. 35k is a very critical level that I mentioned yesterday that had to hold in order to continue this momentum upwards. Why? Well, on the previous area, 35k was a very important support level to hold, and we lost there, so it's the breaker. And therefore, if you flip that level for support, you can assume that we're going to have continuation. And in this case, we did. So when we look at the 4-hour time frame, we can see that we've got a clear resistance zone that is there around 39.2 until the area around 40.8. So on the upside, if we do make this break above this resistance zone, then we are going to have a new impulse wave. On the downside, we know that 35 is a very critical area to hold. Right now, we can even add another one, which is 36.5. That is on a smaller time frame. If 36.5 is lost, I'm looking at 35. If 35 is lost, I'm looking at this last hurdle for a support, as in then we are making this higher low and we can start continuing the momentum to the upside, and there you get the Wyckoff accumulation pattern, right? That is a scenario, but we can also just hold 36 or 35 and then have this upwards game and some more consolidation before we start to continue. But all in all, the conclusion is that we are then making a higher high, but more importantly, we are going to make a new higher low. So we just had a very strong bounce up of Bitcoin, meaning that people felt the need or were swapping their altcoins to Bitcoin because they are expecting more upwards momentum on Bitcoin than on their altcoins at this stage, through which Ethereum and Cardano were having a very healthy corrective move on a Bitcoin pair. So these two scenarios in which these critical levels that we were discussing are, those are the ones that you should be watching in order to see whether it can continue. But overall, we've got the bullish divergence there already, and in order to confirm the bullish divergence, you want to see a higher low being constructed. Whether or not it's 35, whether or not it's going to happen after this test of the high, or whether we can have it in the coming period already, that is all debatable, and that's quite complex to expect. If you ask me right now, seems likely that we're going to test 35 and then continue the upwards momentum. But the topic that I wanted to discuss is that altcoins right now have been seeing a corrective move in their Bitcoin pair. So you can see that Ethereum against Bitcoin is just following the path as it dropped from the resistance zone. Does it mean that altcoins are dead? Does it mean that we should be swapping altcoins towards Bitcoin at this stage? No, I don't think you should, but you should be realizing that the effect of the altcoins right now is because Bitcoin is getting some momentum. So as long as Bitcoin stays inside the range, and the more it's going to consolidate after this big move, because yesterday it was about 20% that it's been bouncing, that is quite significant. So the moment that Bitcoin is going to calm down or stretch for a little while in a range-bound construction, that is most likely the moment that altcoins will start pacing up again, because people will feel the calm pace of being in Bitcoin and just trade their altcoins to generate more Bitcoin. However, if we get into a stage where we finalize this pattern and we start to make that break above 40k, that is most likely going to trigger a short squeeze. So we've been seeing this previously in March 2022, a very big candle to the upside, but every time when it breaks such a structure, we most likely are getting a very heavy breakout on Bitcoin because there's not much in between. I will not be surprised if Bitcoin breaks above 40k and then in one candle goes to 46 to 49. And if that happens, that is going to cause pain to the altcoins. So inside this range-bound construction that Bitcoin has, probably altcoins will just start pacing up with Bitcoin. But the moment that it's eager to start breaking out of this construction, I think altcoins will have some more pain, the final pain, because then Bitcoin might be running to 48k. If it rejects here, starts to calm down, that is the moment that altcoins will start running with Bitcoin. But in this run upwards, it could cause some pain to the altcoins in general. So we can see Ethereum against Bitcoin, in which we can see that we are looking at these levels of support, right? Preferably you want to see the area around 0.65 to 0.68 hold as support. But if that can't hold support, the next areas of support are drawn here. So those are entry points that you could be looking at. And while we are getting such a structure, we are getting a compression period before we can start continuing the momentum in general. Yesterday I've also discussed Cardano, in which we are finally getting into the end point of entry, and that's showing why you should always avoid FOMO in general on altcoins. So if you want to buy into resistance, that's just not the game. Cardano is currently facing a support zone, but if that is lost, I think we're going to look at a structure here as well, in which we still look bullish in general. So what is most likely going to happen? Bitcoin consolidating, altcoins bouncing back up, some altcoins continuing the momentum. Even Litecoin might be flipping back above, but it's rejecting resistance, so we want to hold a very critical level here. That's this entire range around 4,300 sats. It is a bit of a tricky market, so right now the focus is on Bitcoin. If that is going to consolidate and remain flat for a while, I think altcoins will just bounce back up again. But if Bitcoin is going to break above that 40k level in the coming period, or at a later stage during next month maybe, that's going to be a time where you should not be into your altcoin probably, because they will be drawn down or crashing down in their Bitcoin pairs. So that's my update for today. Should you swap your altcoins to Bitcoin? I don't think right now. Should we expect a bottom for Bitcoin? I think we are bottoming out at this stage. Yes. So I'll see you again tonight in the live stream and tomorrow in a new market update.